Hello, everyone. Welcome back here. We're going to take a look at nothing today. The ego, in other words. Nothing. Time, space, what we refer to as the universe, solar systems, galaxies, everything that they appear to contain, space, time, the ego itself, nothing. Okay, as with it, I'm laughing because, as with every single discussion, we can very simply state the purpose and the entire lesson in just one sentence. The ego is nothing. That's our sentence for today. So, this being the world of compound phenomena that we take to be very real, even though we deep down know that it's not, and we have its unreality shown to us in our practical experience and talked about in texts like A Course in Miracles, discussed and talked about repeatedly in videos like these. This being the world where we think that everything is real and concrete and solid, we need to get back to some of these basic, simple ideas. So we've moved on to a new section here in the text of A Course in Miracles. And we're now in chapter 8. Section 1 is called the direction of the curriculum. So what is our learning directed to here in this course? That's the question. Peace is the answer to that. What is referred to in the course as knowledge, in other words, our awakened state at home, so to speak, in God, one with God. We simply know God, and that is beyond our learning here in the course. Our course is directed as far as learning can actually go. Peace. Peace is the condition of knowledge. We must have peace to know God. Put it that way. And that greatly simplifies it, doesn't it? We must have peace to know God. Those who are in conflict cannot be at peace. So that is fairly easy for us to grasp with the thinking mind, isn't it? If you're at conflict, constantly at war, then you're not at peace. Clearly. And that is true here in our experience, isn't it? When we're at conflict, we're not at peace. And even if we have just tiny little threads of conflict, we're not at peace. It's total or it's not at all. Peace is total or it's not at all. Forgiveness then is total or it's not at all. The peace of God is total or it's not at all. Having peace 89.3% of the time is not the peace of God, which is constant and total. So we learn here in studying and practicing this material, we learn to perceive things as they are. We learn to see them truly. And from there, perception, which is dualistic, it involves a perceiver and a perceived, a subject and an object. Perception is translated into knowledge when we learn to perceive things as they are. It's instantaneous. We return to where we've always been, and there is no more perception. In truth, we're right at home where we've always been, and perfect oneness means perfect oneness. There is no other. So we repeat these ideas that are so antithetical to everything we've been conditioned to believe in the world, because there is a shred of truth to them. In fact, it's the entire truth to them. But we begin to feel, and we begin to hear, and we begin to see intimations and glimpses and little flashes here on the path. And those can be so profound sometimes that they can keep us going for a lifetime of spiritual practice in some cases. So we're learning peace. How do you learn peace? You share it. You share the Holy Spirit with your brother. Forgive, truly forgive. That is our practical application here in the world. And you might rightly ask, why am I still experiencing conflict? Because it's everywhere we look, isn't it? And, I don't know what situation you may be in life. Perhaps you're embroiled in something that's chronic. Perhaps it's an illness, or perhaps it's a financial situation, or a difficulty in a relationship. I don't know, right? We get embroiled in all kinds of things here in the world, and it's a good question if you're asking yourself, okay, why am I still in conflict? I want the peace of God. Well, we're invited to check our motivation and deepen our motivation here again at this point in the text. Jesus invites us to consider whether we wholly and truly desire the peace of God and nothing else. Is that what we really, truly want, and nothing else? And nothing else, because it's total, or it's not at all. And God is whole and total, and so are you. So do you want peace and nothing else? And do you truly want that? It's a motivation check, which we should get from time to time on the path from our teacher, shouldn't we? I mean, we should every now and then in any endeavor in life check back in and check our motivation. This makes all kinds of practical sense. It's highly sensible, and we're invited to do it here again. So let's talk about nothing and the ego. The ego can't distract you unless you give it the power to do so. Again, the ego cannot distract you unless you give it the power to do so. Why? It's nothing. Its voice is a hallucination, a mirage, nothing. It's not there. May appear very real like a mirage, and the desert appears very real like a hallucination could appear very real. And it can seem concrete and take form and be very, very frightening indeed, or highly bizarre, but it's not real. The ego has no power to distract you and carry you away unless you give it the power to do so, which you can withdraw at any time. Now, maybe? We can withdraw our allegiance, our attention from the ego. We can simply leave it aside. And that's exactly what we're invited to do. all of the time when we're carried away in life by our social media feed, by work, by all kinds of demands here in life. We can still meet those demands while practicing this course. But when we give the ego the power to drag us away, it's sure to drag us away. And we wind up in a position where we're judging all of the time, where we're stressed out, anxious and depressed, not feeling well, not wholly joyous. We wind up with all kinds of drama in our lives that we don't need. And the ego, this thing that we've given our allegiance to, is actually nothing. It's a hallucination. It does not exist. There is no ego, none. It's nothing. There is no separation of any kind. There are no differences at all. There is only perfect oneness. There is only perfect oneness. It's almost like a mantra. You could pull out your mala beads or a rosary. Click, there is only perfect oneness. Click, there is only perfect oneness. Click. You get what we're saying here. And the reason for the repetition is we don't believe it. So enter A Course in Miracles. Enter this video that you're watching. Enter the guidance and the instruction, and often the repetitive instruction of your inner teacher. Think about this course if you've spent some time with it. Jesus is saying the same thing over and over again in different words and in different chapters under different labels and headings that might draw our attention. He knows what he's doing. We need this repetition because when we identify as an individual self-sustaining survival unit, an ego, an individual human being, well, we need this repetition because we've erected so many walls and barriers to our experience and awareness of truth, the peace of God, that we need repetition so that we may first begin to actually consider these ideas and let them percolate in our mind and toss them around and let them ferment. Yes, let them ferment and stew and fester. Let them kick around in our mind for a while. And then we begin to formulate the wish to practice them. And we recognize, oh, yeah, well, just understanding this intellectually is not enough. I've got to put this into practice. So we practice extending love. We extend the miracle. We forgive the Son of God and ourselves. One and the same. Remember, there is no separation of any kind at all. Never has been. So we begin to practice, and as we do, our experience shows us that these ideas, which at one point may have seemed completely crazy and far out, our experience shows us that they're true, powerful. We're learning. That's how we do it. And it's completely by design. And it's powerful. This is how we return home. And that's simply a metaphor. We've never left. Ideas leave not their source, and you are most free to capitalize the S on source. Ideas leave not their source. Ideas, thoughts of God, do not leave the mind of God. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Very powerful and very real. Very true. So let's not expect the ego to agree with the Holy Spirit. The ego's voice is a hallucination. So we cannot expect it to say, yeah, I'm not real. I'm a hallucination. You're making this up. You're making this up. You're making all of this up. Yeah, it's not really here. Nah, yeah, no. Mm-mm. Yeah, I don't exist either. I'm just a dream. I'm a figment of your imagination, gone deeply awry, madly awry, and running amok, and ruling your mind and placing you in a constant state of terror, fear, and conflict. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not real. You can't expect that. The ego is nothing. So as we repeat these ideas and we practice forgiveness again and again and again, we begin to develop something that's incredibly important, and that is trust in the guidance of our inner teacher. Now, I've said before, and it's worth saying again, that the spiritual path is indeed about learning to relax and to trust the guidance of our inner teacher, to know that our inner teacher has our back, which is in fact true. Even though it doesn't feel safe to wholeheartedly adopt these ideas, it is safe, and it's the ego that's afraid. And remember, all we have to do when we experience fears, remember, the ego is fear, and it's nothing. So in these situations, to the extent that you're able to do it, bring your mind back to your inner teacher, bring your mind back to forgiveness of the Son of God, or a one breath meditation, or whatever your practical anchor is, to return your awareness back to your practice. Because life here in the world is a constant opportunity for practice. Everything that's not wholly joyous is an opportunity for forgiveness. Everything that is wholly joyous here in the world is symbolic of our own joy, of our radiance, of our limitlessness as Christ. Everything in this world is a symbol. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's your forgiveness opportunity. And the world delivers these on a silver platter. We have only to recognize this and to act accordingly. So that's what all of this repetition and all of this practice is in fact about. All right. So as we go along, questions are most natural, and I invite them. So if you've got them, please feel welcome to leave them. Also, if you're just starting out, I know a number of you are, or you're just checking out A Course in Miracles. Now, for whatever reason, you may not actually be consciously aware of what drew you to this video or this big book that's over 1,000 pages. Maybe it's the title, A Course in Miracles. I mean, who doesn't need miracles in their lives, right? Whatever the reason is, there's a reason that you're watching this. When something lands for you, it's your inner teacher. And understand that when we're talking about questions, there's no question that's too basic or something that you should feel like you know. If you don't actually know, then please ask. First of all, ask your inner teacher for guidance, but you're more than welcome to type out a question or a comment here in this series of videos right here on YouTube. Yeah, and if even if it's just to drop in and say hello, we'd love to hear from you. All right, the subscription button's right here. If you haven't joined us yet, I invite you to do so. That's that red arrow here in the corner of your screen. Yeah, go ahead and click on that. And I thank you in closing for your dedication to your spiritual practice. I can't say it enough, so I'll just keep saying it, because remember, we're on the theme of repetition. Yeah, it's the most important offering that you could ever make. It's what the world needs. It's what your brother needs is your dedication and commitment to practice. The more people truly dedicate and commit themselves to practice and actually do it, the learning's in the doing here. The more people do that, the more peaceful the world becomes. There is no world in the end, but we need to realize the condition of knowledge, peace. We need to have peace before we awaken. And you can't have peace when you're running around frantic, dazed, confused, and stressed out. So we take the moments where we remember to practice and we do it. And our experience shows us these ideas are true. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all soon.